And today we're going to be planting some seeds. So I've got a few seeds to have a look at today. We're mostly going to be doing the larger seeds today. So I've got some peas to plant today. Could also be planting things like broad beans at the moment. And we'll also have a little look at planting slightly smaller seeds like cucumber or courgette, so we can have a go with those. Hello, Judith. Lovely to see you here. So we need to be able to plant some seeds. We need pots, some compost, and some seeds. So if we're planting things like peas or broad bean seeds, these send out quite long roots, so we need a fairly big pot for those. So something like a cream pot or a yogurt pot like that is good for pea seeds. I tend to plant my broad bean seeds in a toilet roll tube or half a kitchen roll tube, and I've just put some paper in there so that the soil doesn't fall out the bottom. So there's a couple of ideas for pots for your larger seeds. If we're planting slightly smaller seeds like the courgettes or the cucumbers, then they don't need as much root space. So we can go for a slightly smaller pot. We could plant them in something like that. So we've just got a little bit of space there for the roots to go down. Or I have even had a go at planting them in an egg tray. So we've got 6 little slots with those. So I've actually got a, what did I plant there? That's the cucumber at that side. So we've got some different seeds in each of the different 6 holes for those. So that works reasonably well as a sort of getting the seeds started option as well. Okay, so when we're looking at the pots, if you've got something like a yogurt pot or something like that, then if it was a normal plant pot, then you'd usually have some holes in the bottom for the water to drain away if you water them too much. So what I tend to do with these is just go with a pair of scissors and just snip a couple of little holes at the side there. You might need your mum to help you with that one if you're not into using scissors very much. I've just put sort of 4 little snips in the side there to let the water out, so that it doesn't get boggy in there. Seeds don't like to get too soggy. You know, if you're in the bath, you get a little bit wrinkly and it starts not to feel so good. So yeah, seeds don't like to be too soggy either. So we've got a couple of things that we're going to plant into. Now I've actually got so that I don't get too much compost on my kitchen table. So I'm going to take my 2 pots there and get my 2 lots of seeds ready with each of these 2 pots. So that's going in that one. And we need to fill those with compost. So I've got some compost here. I've got a bit of a mix, actually. I've got some compost with a bit of soil in there. And anybody see what I might be using to scoop my compost up today? So I cut down a milk carton to help scoop. And it's quite nice because I can sort of hold it with my fingers through the hole there and scoop up some compost. So that's what I'm using, and I'm just going to fill these 2 containers with a bit of compost. So we've got some compost in there, and I've filled it fairly full, but then it's going to squish down a little bit. So we're just going to squish that down a little bit so that we've got sort of a centimetre or 2 centimetres from the top there where our compost is going up to. I'm just going to do the same for my little toilet roll holder. Do that over the trug. So we've got that compost going in there. And I'm just squishing it down with my finger so that we've got a little bit of space in the top of there as well. So we've got those two filled up, and before we stick the seeds in there, what I tend to do is I water the compost first so it's nice and damp. So I'm just putting a little bit of water in the top there so that the compost is nice and damp and nutritious for the seeds before we start. And then I need to get some of the seeds out, and if it's peas in a tub like my yogurt container there, my is it cream? It's cream container. That looks about enough space for 4 or 5 pea seeds in there. So I've just got those pea seeds out, and I've got my compost ready, and the water's soaked in nicely. It's not still sat on the top. And I'm just going to take the seeds and put one in each sort of 4 corners there so that you can see that I'm just pushing it into the soil a little bit so that we've got those 4 seeds nicely separated in there. Just push them down a little bit, and then we're going to put some compost on top of that in a sec. Okay, so that's with the peas. We can fit 4 in there. With this one, not very much space in that one. So I've got a broad bean that I'm going to put in there. And these broad bean seeds aren't round like the peas. They're slightly flat on each side. So what I tend to do is I try and lay it down so that it's on its side. Because if I laid it flat, then water might gather at the top there and make it all mouldy. So I'm going to lie it on its side there. I'm just going to push it in so that, can you see? Yeah, so it's pushed down to the soil there, but it's on its side. It's not lying flat. Cool. So both of those two, I can now fill up the pot with a little bit more compost. And these 2 types of seeds, both on the packet, both say that you can put a good centimetre to 2 centimetres of soil on the top there. So I'm giving mine a little bit of soil to cover it up and make sure that seed keeps nice and covered and damp. And so that's a very happy set of seeds. So we've got slightly more soil in there now. We've got 2 lots of seeds, but we need to remember what we planted. So I'm just going to go for a label. And if it was on something like my yogurt pot here, or my cream pot, I could just say right on there. But that's not going to work very well for my broad bean seed in my tube, because the tube's slightly soggy now where I've been watering it. So I'm just going to write broad bean on there. So I can stick that in there, and we can go and put those somewhere on a windowsill probably. Now, so that I can keep watering them, I tend to put them in a little tray. So again, a meat tray or a vegetable tray. I can just put those 2 on there. so that they're ready to go and I can put them on a windowsill where it's nice and light. Cool. So what have we got? Judith says I need to make some seed compost. I've got multi-purpose compost. Can I just add garden soil? Yes, I do mix my compost with a bit of soil from the garden very often, because then it's sort of more like how the plants might be planted outside. You could put some sharp sand in there. I also tend to try and, if it's multi-purpose compost, I tend to try and pick the big bits out, because seeds have got to fight their roots around the lumps. So I tend to, particularly the stuff I'm putting on top of the seeds, I tend to just sort of try and get the finer stuff out. But generally, most things work. So seeds are pretty resilient. They've been evolving to cope with wherever they land, whatever soil, whether it's near a stream or by a field or whatever. They're pretty resilient things, are most seeds, particularly the big seeds like these. Okay, so I'm just going to go for our second option, which is some of the other seeds like cucumbers. Got some yellow cucumbers there, and I've got some round courgettes, and I've got some straight courgettes. So I've got a few different things that I fancy planting out next, and I'm going to use one of our yogurt tubs here. Now you could use one of the sort of mushroom containers there instead, but it doesn't have to be quite so deep for these. And I use my egg box there for a couple of the courgette seeds as well. So doesn't matter quite as much for the depth for these ones, but again, I do want to make sure that they don't get overwatered. So I am just going to go and snip some holes in this one before I fill it with compost. You could do it carefully afterwards if you want as well. Yeah, so I've got a couple of holes in that side and a couple of holes in that side. So that's now happy, and I could put it in a tray afterwards so that if I water it, then the water seeps out into the tray but doesn't go on your windowsill. So I've now got another container that I'm going to use there. Go and fill that up with some compost. So I've got a little bit in there so far, need a little bit more. So I've got about that much compost, and I'm just going to squish it down a little bit with my fingers, just so that we've got a nice sort of solid lot of compost, and it's not going to dry out too quickly. Yeah, so it's sort of squished down a little bit there. And now I need to water it again. So like I watered the other ones, I'm watering the compost before I put the seeds in, but not afterwards. Maybe tomorrow I'll come and water those other ones, and the top will get a little bit damp, but I don't want to overwater it. So I tend to water the soil or compost that I'm putting in for the seeds to start off with, rather than water them after I've planted the seeds. So that's now nice and ready for me to plant my courgette and cucumber seeds. So I'm going to go and get one of the, we've got courgette Black Beauty here that I'm going to plant in my little Country Life Butter container. And very often these seeds come in little packets to protect them. And they often say what they are on the little packet as well as on the main packet. And you'll probably have a few different seeds in there. So I haven't planted any of these particular ones yet, but I've got a couple of seeds there. you can actually see that sort of size. One's actually a fair bit smaller than the other, but they're pretty easy to handle, our courgette seeds. They're quite nice. But again, like the broad bean, you don't want it lying flat where it might get some water on the top there and get mouldy. So I tend to plant them sort of on their side, but sort of sitting upright in the soil. So I'm just going to push those two in and then show you. So let's do it that way around. So I've sort of put them on their side and squished them into the soil a little bit. So those are quite nice and settled in the soil. So those were my green courgettes. And I've also got some round courgettes here, Easter roll. So I fancy putting a couple of those in as well. So I'm going to have a little bit of a mixture, and might need to label them up. And these ones are actually a little bit bigger. So again, we're going to squish them into the soil so that they're sort of on the side there, and just push them in a little bit. And then the same with that one, squish it into the soil there so it's on its side. Cool. So the last ones I'm going to do are some of these cucumber seeds. So I've got an outdoor cucumber market more there. But again, most of these courgettes and cucumbers, peas and beans, they can all go outside, either in a pot, on the patio, or by your front door. They don't need a greenhouse or anything. So today's seeds are all sort of outdoor capable. So cucumber seeds are a little bit smaller than our courgette seeds. So we've got a little cucumber seed there, and there's the other one. So I've got 2 cucumber seeds, and I'm just going to, again, put those kind of semi-vertically in the soil there, just jab them into the soil so that they're not lying flat. So those are now in there, and I've got 2 green courgettes, 2 round courgettes, and 2 cucumbers. I'm going to have to label those up in a second. So that's ready for me to put the soil on the top there. If you do look at your seed packet, it'll probably say how deep to plant them. So I tend to put about 1 centimetre of soil on the top of these, and I'm just going to sprinkle that on the top there now. So just a little bit of soil onto those, just so that they're covered and they don't dry out. It's mostly that. And when the seeds start coming through, that soil is going to support them as they start getting longer stems. Okay, so we've got those on there, and I can now go and make sure that I've labelled them. So again, I can just go and make sure I've got courgettes. I can stick that label in there, and then need the round one, and then my cucumber. Excellent. So those are ready, and again, I can stand those in a tray like that, so that when I water them tomorrow, then the water won't go out onto your windowsill. Now, I do tend to try and stop these drying out. So the last thing I tend to do is either I can cover up these seeds with a clear plastic one like that, or if you don't have one of those kicking around from your fruit or vegetable this week, then you can just put the whole little lot inside a plastic bag, and that just stops everything drying out. And then tomorrow morning you can give it a little water, not too much, and keep an eye out. It's going to be about sort of 7 to 14 days before they normally come up. So put them somewhere where you're going to see them again in the next few days. Keep an eye on them, and hopefully in about a week or 10 days, you'll have little courgette and cucumber seeds coming up like we've got over here on this side. If it's peas, they're going to come up looking like that. So those were my Mange 2 peas from about 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. So those are growing nicely. I might even pop those into a bigger pot soon. And if it's something like the broad beans that you've planted, then these do take a little bit longer. I tend to find these take a couple of weeks before they come out. But you're just starting to see one starting to come up there. And sometimes you actually see that it starts coming up there, but also it's got a little root sticking out the bottom. So that's a sign that it's actually getting up and healthy, that the roots are coming out of the bottom of those as well. Okay, so that's what you've got to look forward to in about a week's time. So hopefully you've enjoyed having a look along at those seed planting, and you're actually getting some of your soil in the pots and putting some of your seeds in the next 10 minutes or so. I'm going to hang around on the Facebook group in case people have got any questions. I've got a couple of things showing up there. Judith's got some questions that are starting to be answered. And some other people are asking questions on the main Facebook page. So I'm going to jump on the Facebook page in case you've got any questions for me over there. But that was it for today's session. I'm hoping to do another one of these tomorrow, and then some different seeds next week. But we'll probably concentrate on the smaller seeds tomorrow. So if you fancy doing some lettuce seeds or tomato seeds or pepper seeds, we'll do those little baby seeds in tomorrow's session. So hope you've had fun today, and happy growing.